anything that clouds your mind and could take you away from the reality that the Creator gave us to enjoy is not something that should be socially acceptable. Absolutely, like I say, our job is to walk like the Messiah walked. If you can sit here and tell me that the Messiah would light up a joint, then go for it. But if not, you know in your heart what's right.
Hello everybody, this is Paul Neeson. I have a special guest on the show, our friend Ron. Ron, say hello to the audience.
Hello everybody, and shalom.
Alright, Ron, I wanted to have you on because I recently interviewed somebody about marijuana in the Bible. Is it okay? And there was a lot of positive and negative comments about the interview and about marijuana in general. But I wanted to get your experience because you had some good feedback, and I always like to get somebody who has personal experience with these things. So can you tell us a little bit about, first, when you saw the video, and then I'll put a link to the video on the screen, everybody, so you can go see it later. But when you saw the video of it's what seemed like us supporting marijuana from a scriptural standpoint, you shared a little bit of your experience, and then you disagreed that it's a positive thing, marijuana. So can you, tell us about your comment and also your experience with it.
Well, sir, I grew up in a Christian background, going to church, and when I was about 14 years old, I started getting heavy into smoking marijuana. And by the time I was 15, I was arrested with conspiracy to distribute a quarter pound of marijuana. So it escalated rather quickly. And by the time I got older and I'd realized just exactly what the things I have done was wrong, and I'd got into many, many, many bad things, with that being a gateway drug. And I just needed to find a way to come back to God, and thank the Lord He led me back to Him.
Now, when you call it a gateway drug, I mean, I know a lot of people that smoke marijuana, but they, by no means do they ever dabble or have a temptation to dabble in other drugs. So do you think it's a gateway drug for just some people, or do you think eventually for everyone it is?
I don't believe it is for everybody, but I do believe that once you're into that culture and that life, it is absolutely more accessible to you. You have people offer you different types of substances that just wouldn't be around if you weren't messing with marijuana to begin with.
That's a great point. Now, other than doing it medicinally, what is the purpose, do you feel, of somebody doing marijuana besides medicinally?
Besides medicinally, just to smoke it, I don't think there is any real benefits. I mean, medicinally, I'm all for it. I'm all for its industrial applications, such as paper, even some hemp oils and gases I've heard them talk about. But as far as just using marijuana to get high, I don't see anything scriptural about it. And we got to remember that our adversary, the devil, walks around and he tries to devour us. And if we're not in our right state of mind, then it's easier for him to grab a hold of us.
Sure. Now, this is something that you just talk about smoking it, or you talk about ingesting it anyway, in terms of vaporizing or eating it just to get a high. You think always, or just not scriptural or not good?
I think always, really, because it's unfruitful. It doesn't edify you to walk around being high. Yeshua told us we have to stay sober and vigilant. We have to watch for Him to come. And I think that any substance that would cloud the mind could interfere with us doing that. We want to be like the virgins who were ready. They were prepared, not like the ones who needed to go out and rush away to buy the oil.
So you had an experience where you got arrested at a young age with it. Now, besides you getting arrested from a health standpoint, did it affect your health, do you feel, in any way?
Yes, I'd smoked marijuana, and I'd also smoked cigarettes for a very long time. And after smoking for years and years, it just took a great toll on my health. I could literally walk for short amount of time and just huff and puff, and whenever I got away from all that, I could feel my lungs getting healthier. I could go out and be more active and participate in sports with my son that I just couldn't get the energy or wind for when I was still smoking marijuana.
And what would you say to people that said that's because you were smoking cigarettes and it wasn't the marijuana smoke that was creating that issue with your lungs?
Well, if you actually look at what marijuana does, that's a myth. If you're smoking marijuana, all the carcinogens and any type of smoke of any kind is bad for you. So I just don't believe that.
Sure. And what do you want to say to people like the felony interview that I interviewed and other people that not only are trying to legalize marijuana for recreational use, but people that are into the scriptures trying to support that? What's your opinion to them based on your experience with it?
My opinion is to seek God. Our Messiah Yeshua told us to have him as an example. I could not picture for 1 second our Messiah getting high at any stage of his ministry, at any point of his life, and it's just not something I feel that we're to do. There's no scriptural evidence to base getting high on.
And now, when you talk about altering the mind, getting high with a substance, what's your opinion about alcohol in the scriptures?
Alcohol, people love to quote Jesus as turning water into wine and things like this, but they also have to realize that Jesus, he may have turned the water into wine. It was new wine. It wasn't alcoholic and strong. It wasn't something that he was going around promoting all the time. It wasn't like he was going around drinking and partying. He was our Messiah. That's far from the truth. And it's not scriptural. And it says many, many times in scripture to be sober, not to give in to strong drink, not to do those things.
Since so many people of the world drink and do smoke marijuana, do you think, as being a believer and being set apart, that's one of the things that could set us apart?
Well, I do believe that if somebody were to drink moderately, maybe it's not going to be something that's as bad as, say, getting drunk every day and laying around and getting high or this or that. I mean, even to have a couple glasses of wine at Passover, I mean, that'd even be good for your health. But the bad benefits of these things are much worse. People that start drinking, they start using marijuana, they get lazy, their job skills lack, their communication and social skills start going downhill. It's just a losing battle, really.
And what made you, Ron, decide to stop smoking? Was there an experience, or did you just decide you had enough of this?
Yes, sir. I'd actually, through starting marijuana, I had gone into other drugs such as cocaine and eventually into heroin. And when I started messing with heroin, I about lost my family, I about lost my son, I about lost everything I had. But I'd always used marijuana with those other substances. And I realized once I could put it all behind me and follow the Messiah like he wants us to be followed, through his strength, I was able to put those things down and start following his word more clearly and more better. And just, it changed my entire life with my family, with my work, with everything in all aspects of my life. I just feel blessed and overjoyed that I could get rid of those things and have a clear mind today.
And what about the possibility of marijuana becoming legalized in most states in the United States? What's your feelings about that?
It really kind of scares me, especially with younger kids who are going to see it being used recreationally and it's being glorified in every type of movie and TV and any type of literature you can think of. I think it's just a shame, really. I wouldn't want my son growing up to think that marijuana is something that's acceptable to society and okay. Because, like I said, anything that clouds your mind and could take you away from the reality that the Creator gave us to enjoy is not something that should be socially acceptable.
Absolutely. And how do you feel about, it's already legalized in some states. You being somebody who was, you would say, addicted to marijuana, you would agree, correct?
Yes,
How
sir.
what would you say to people, very humble people that are struggling with it and using this legalization as an excuse that it's okay to do? I mean, I'm asking you this, Ron, because you're not just somebody who is against it. You have an experience, and people aren't doing it on purpose to hurt other people or to create these bad examples. They just don't realize it. So, Well, what would be your message to people that are using the legalization of it as an excuse to believe it's okay what they're doing when they know deep down inside that it's filling some type of void or something?
I believe that those people should really just sit down and consider it, really meditate on it and pray about it, because if you're using the legalization of a substance, no matter what it could be, to justify you doing it, then you've got a problem. You can't, I mean, if cocaine were to be legalized, would that be okay to do it? Of course not. We got to really, we know down in our heart that the things that we do create the circumstances around us. And if we allow these people to legalize marijuana in all these states, all it's going to do is promote our young children and our young people to want to smoke it more often and lead us into very unfruitful practices.
There's a huge amount of people in jail because they've gotten arrested for marijuana possession. And some people say the police use this to fund whatever they have to fund or to make money. And there are studies that show, especially in minority communities, that this is one of the things they use, the marijuana, to control population, let's say. Do you have any feelings about this, or do you know about this since you personally have experience with it?
Absolutely. I live somewhat close to Baltimore, Maryland. And down there, you can just see that the police really will use the war on drugs to try to create a situation for different minorities that they can kind of control. They can put different people in jail for a certain amount of time for this or that. They can use it as a way to search people's vehicles, to try to do different things. I do believe that the war on drugs isn't necessarily the greatest thing that we have right now, because it's spending so many tax dollars to fight people who are just smoking a little bit of marijuana. Well, smoking a little bit of marijuana might not be something that's scriptural. It might not even be good for us. I think the police do take it to the next level. With some of these people that I've seen, the circumstances they grow up in are just ridiculous. And they're victims of their circumstances, really, their environment. And I don't condone anybody using that as an excuse, but to a certain degree, we have to understand that these people are, they have almost little to no way out. And the only way they can is to really search their heart, get in touch with the Bible, and try to find their way out of there through faith.
Sure. Now, you being arrested and I assume thrown in jail for the marijuana possession, would you
Yes.
say, looking back now, that that was actually a blessing in disguise, or would you say that that was an experience that you're not thankful for? Because did it help you realize that something I'm doing is wrong, or did it help you stop doing it? I mean, how do you feel about it now versus how you felt about it then?
Well, Paul, I was first arrested, like I said, when I was 14 years old for marijuana possession. And it escalated quite quickly to where I was arrested multiple times for marijuana possession. In 2008, I was arrested not only for possession of marijuana, but for possession of cocaine when the police had busted in my door. And until you experience that, you've never experienced the terror of not knowing when somebody could just bust in your door, throw you on the ground, and haul you off to jail. It's terrible. I wish that on nobody. It's a horrible experience. But the one thing I did get out of that is when I was in that jail, I went back to my Christian roots. I picked up a Bible and I started actually studying it instead of just reading it and listening to what preachers had told me. I started finding deeper meanings, and I found a Messiah that I never knew existed until I studied.
I guess what I'm getting at, Ron, what I'm asking you is if that experience never happened without you getting arrested those several times, and you were free to do the marijuana or any other type of drug as much as you wanted, do you think it would have been much worse for you today, or do you think those experiences helped you to overcome it?
I think those experiences absolutely helped me to overcome it. If marijuana becomes legal, there's going to be no stop for people to see what they're actually doing. If somebody's arrested like I was and they're put in jail, it's a blessing in disguise for most people because it does give them the opportunity to really sit back and think what they want out of life. For me, it was an opportunity to sit back and really meditate and pray about what I wanted. Did I want to keep my family and go forward, or did I want to lose everything that I've built up in the drop of a hat for a substance that did nothing but get you high? It's worthless.
So just to be clear, just so everyone knows, you support medical marijuana being legal,
Absolutely.
and you support the hemp plant for its usable properties being legal, but the marijuana to get high, whether it's smoking, eating, or any way of ingesting it for the purpose of getting high, that's what you are against.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And from a scriptural standpoint, you believe that absolutely under no circumstances would the scriptures support getting high under any circumstances besides medicinally, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is there anything else you want to add, a message to the people that are unaware of the negative effects of marijuana? Maybe they've done it a couple of times and they've experienced a good feeling, but that's it. What message would you like to give those people that are supporting the legalization of marijuana, but they really don't know how bad it can turn?
I'd just like to say, think of our children. Think of all the kids who are out there and they're experimenting and they're trying to see what this marijuana is all about. They're seeing it at every turn, every corner. They're seeing it in movies. They're seeing it on TV. There's no real escape for these guys. And for us to promote it and make it legal, it makes it so much harder for them to overcome because they think it's cool. They think it's the right way to do. These people on TV take it to the next level all the time and just throw it in your faces everywhere you turn. I ask that they just really consider how they want the next generations of America to be brought up. Do we want to grow away from our morals and our standards and our values, or do we really want to take that left turn and go into social anarchy and promote all kinds of substances that we know in our heart are really not right to use?
I personally haven't used marijuana and I don't know the effects on the body, but people tell me that it's not as bad as drinking. For example, they say if you're driving when you're high, it's not as bad as drunken driving. You experiencing this, I do know it slows down reactions. Would you agree that there's no danger in smoking while you're high?
I don't agree with that. Marijuana, it can make you lazy and tired, and it does cloud your judgment. And I say anything that clouds your judgment, you shouldn't operate a vehicle while you're doing it.
And what would be your reply to people from the scriptures that will continue to say that there's no law or sin against using the herb to get high?
Like I say, our job is to walk like the Messiah walked. If you can sit here and tell me that the Messiah would light up a joint, then go for it. But if not, you know in your heart what's right.
What else do you want to add on this important subject?
I'd like to say just really pray about it and ask the Spirit to lead you in the right direction. Don't let this society be a society that ruins the next generations coming up through legalizing substances that we know promote nothing but laziness and they're not edifying anything. We need to take steps in the right direction morally and try to at least get this country back in running working order. We've really taken a left turn and it's time to really show the American spirit and come back into our Christian roots.
Absolutely, Ron. Thank you so much for joining us with this important information that you're sharing and from your own personal experience. And I pray that somebody listening, this message will reach them because it's important. And again, it comes from personal experience, not from just our own thoughts. Ron, before we leave, what is your question or your opinion about somebody saying it's up to me, it's my own body, and no government has the right to tell me what to put in my body. What would you say to that?
I'd say the government don't have to tell you what you could put in your body. You know that you're hurting your own body through smoking marijuana. Anything that hurts your body, clouds your mind, and doesn't serve to edify you is only wrong and misleading. So don't fool yourself. You ain't fooling God. Just don't do it.
Well, now, Ron, when you started smoking at 14, or when you at least got arrested, I don't know how young you started, were you doing it to fill a void, or were you doing it just to be cool, peer pressure? What was the reason that you were doing it, and why do you think people do it?
I started smoking marijuana when I was 14, and I think it was really to fit in with the crowd. And then my mom had got sick, and it did help me fill a void there for a while. And then through marijuana, I got friends that had LSD or cocaine, and it was all part of that culture, all part of that scene. And once you start trying marijuana and you feel like it's something that makes you feel good, or it didn't make you hurt so bad, it cured your depression, and it's basically a big way to not deal with your problems. But every time that high wears off, you gotta face those problems anyway. The best way to face your problems is on your knees with God. When I was 16 years old, I was arrested again multiple times for not only using marijuana, but now I was stealing things to try to support my habit. Whenever you start into that life, it just progressively gets worse, in my opinion, until eventually you're like me and you start doing cocaine. And whenever that stops filling the void, next thing you know, you're back to heroin. And you don't want to go that route. I can tell you from personal experience, drugs are not worth it. Marijuana is not worth it. It will not fill a void in your life. Getting high is not worth it just for fun. Look at what you're putting your body through just for a little 2 hour high. You're putting not only yourself at risk, you're putting others at risk if you're driving cars around. You're putting your parents and your loved ones through unwanted stress and misery because they care about you and they want to see you clean and sober and back to the person they know you can be. Just, you really got to think about what you're doing, not only to yourself, but to everybody else around you as well, and to what the kids are going to think whenever they look at you. Because, like I said, I can't stress enough that the next generation's coming up. It's being forced on them left and right, and we need to really take a step back and see how we want our kids to be raised and what kind of influence that they're being shown, because it's terrible. It's a terrible way to live.
Ron, with other drugs, you hear like crack and cocaine and heroin and things that there's a really big letdown that doesn't happen with marijuana. What would you say about that? Is that true that it's a lot worse, or is there none with marijuana? What's the truth?
I feel like the truth of that is most of the time, if you see somebody who's using cocaine or they're using heroin, they're using marijuana as well. Those people use marijuana all day long, like I did. I never put my marijuana pipe down. I'd steady smoke pot all day long. But then when I got into heroin, I'd take my shot, and it really is a letdown as far as your life, nothing more. Because that's what you're really losing out of the whole package. You're losing life. You're losing precious time spent with your kids, precious time spent with with your wife and your loved ones, and it's just not worth it.
And you know it's special, even though when you say this special time, you're not only talking about being physically there, you're talking about being mentally there with your kids and your family, and this is what you're losing if you're in another place, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because whenever you're laying around and you're all high, half passed out on the couch, and your son comes up to you and tugs on you, Daddy, Daddy, what do you want to do today? And all you want to do is go up into the room and get high. That's no way to live. That's no way for you to live or your son to live. You got to think about what you're doing. It's not all about you all the time. It's not all about getting high. It's about what your life could be, not about what it is at that moment when you're high. There's ways to deal with these things, and there's ways to get out of them. And I just pray to God that people find a way out like I did.
And what would now you're talking about somebody or giving your experience of somebody who got high all the time. What would your advice, or would it be the same to somebody that does it very seldom, maybe, a couple of days a week and maybe once a day or something? It's not all the time. Would you think that's any different, or would you think that's just leading up to it getting worse and worse?
I really do believe it's leading up to getting worse and worse. I mean, I know everybody's different, every case is different, and there are people who get high once in a while and are only on the weekends or these type of things. But if you're a believer in the Lord, then you shouldn't be doing it at all. That's just bottom line. Christ Yeshua would in no way possible be getting high, and he would not teach anybody to be getting high. He said to stay sober, be vigilant. He doesn't want us getting high.
How would you tell people, Ron, in the love of Yeshua, with telling them the truth and what you're saying, but doing it in a way where you're not rubbing them off the wrong way, or scaring them away? Uh, how would you treat this, or how would you say, I mean, other than everything you're saying here in this video, but you and I know if you heard this when you weren't a believer, you would have just shrugged a shoulder and kept doing it. So has our Creator revealed to you a way to approach fellow believers and to help them to see this without just coming straight out and telling them?
Well, I believe you have to approach every situation with love. I've lost so many friends under these circumstances that it really hurts my heart. And every time I'd approach one of them, they just didn't want to hear it. All they wanted to do was get high. And then I had the ones that they were believers, but their faith wasn't strong enough to pull them out of it. And those are the people that I still go and I still minister to them and I try to help them. And some of the time, it really does work. You approach them with love. You never put somebody down for what they're doing. You never try to create an issue of space between you guys. You want to embrace them. You want to try to lead them out of these things with love, out of support, and offer them your strength. If there's anything you can do to help a fellow brother or sister that's struggling with marijuana addiction, struggling with any type of addiction, you need to really be there for them and show them that if there's a void in their life that they think needs filled, you can help fill that void through friendship, through fellowship, through many different ways. You could go see what they like to do, enjoy sports, things of this nature, instead of just talking about drugs or wanting to do drugs. Or I hear it all the time with so many people that a lot of them even claim to be believers, but most of the time I hear when it comes to the marijuana subject, Genesis 1:11 says God made herbs and they were good. Yeah, I understand that. Well, God made poison ivy too, but you ain't putting it in a pipe and smoking it. So you really got to use common sense and comprehension with everything. Every case is different, but they all have to be approached with love and support.
Very well, Ron. Thank you so much for your time, brother, and I look forward to doing it again. And I want everyone to get to Ron's page and just give him a word of encouragement and support him in his message to get this out, because it's an important message, like he said, for the children, for the nation, and so people really need to know what's going on. It's not about the government making something legal or illegal. It's about Satan having his way or not. And
Absolutely.
brother, thank you so much for sharing, and I think we're going to be doing talking some more in the near future, okay?
Thank you, Paul. I love your ministry. I think you're doing a fabulous job, buddy.
Thank you.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah Life Ministries, come out of the world.